a professional etiquette workshop, right? So do you really know what is exactly meant by professional etiquette? It is unwritten code of conduct regarding the interactions among the members in a business setting. So when proper professional etiquette is utilized, everyone that is involved in the conversation will basically feel more comfortable and things will tend to flow more smoothly. Hence, it is obvious that this is really significant for us, especially us students who will enter into work life in the very near future. So what are our goals of the program is basically this workshop aims to develop professionalism among students for their future career life in the industry. Besides, the students will also be exposed to knowledge and techniques regarding professional growth in order to be more viable in the future workplace. Therefore, I hope everyone is enjoying themselves here at the Islamic Career Festival 2021. And we will be having an expert as our speaker today, Mr. FADZIL from Sime Darby in Talent Management and Organizational Development. Mr. AMIRUL carries 17 years of experience in his career life, specifically in human resources professional and global banking and financial market operations. Not just that, he's also a skillful person in talent management, training, employee engagement, and performance management, and I believe the list will just goes on. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. AMIRUL to the floor. Hello, Mr. AMIRUL, how are you feeling today?
Unmute first, so that always happens, right? Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera to everybody. Thank you very much, Nazlina, for that quick introduction. I am feeling fine. I hope all of you are fine as well, right? All of us are staying safe, staying healthy, I believe. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, I'm happy to be here. I am delighted to be invited and in good health to do this. And as mentioned by Nazlina, I would like for this session to be a two-way interaction. There'll be a lot of questions. I will be sharing screens and also slides later, but at the same time also, it's going to be very beneficial if we interact, because I would also like to learn from you. Why I say that is because that while I'm sharing my experiences, you would also have your own perceptions of how things are done, right? And how things actually happen in the real world, in the working life experience. And when Nazlina also mentioned just now, it's about unwritten code of conduct for professionalism or ethics, right? There's actually a written code of conduct that we have to adhere to. And there are times when we always say that, oh, there is this code of conduct you need to follow, or there will be some consequences, which I will go through later, don't worry, okay? So since today is also Salam Al-Hijrah to everybody, it's a public holiday in Malaysia. I know I'm wearing a shirt. I stopped short of wearing a jacket, right? Because I want it to be informal as well, although we are talking about professional etiquette, okay? And first off, lesson learned. If you see when I started to speak just now, what happened? I was on mute. So in this new norm, right, it always happens. But it is very important that be aware. And it's just not, I know, as a student, but also as a professional, but it happens. Okay, without further ado, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to share a presentation. Just bear with me for a moment. All right, I would like to check with anybody, Azlina or the rest. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Yes,
yep.
I can see it.
Great. Okay, so it's the professional etiquette workshop. Okay, so that's my name. And of course, August 2021, as you can see there. Okay, and this is just a picture for everybody. Okay, so this is a, if you can imagine, it could be in a school, right? It could be in a university. It could be at work. But you see how they dress? Okay, a little bit informal, but the guy is in shirts, but in khakis or in jeans. Can you see? I'll touch upon that a bit later. All right. So that's just an introduction. But okay, this is a blank screen here. But we're going to talk about professionalism. Okay. When the words professional comes to your mind, or you hear somebody says it to you, what do you think it is from your own personal opinion? There's no right or wrong. In all my questions today, there is no right, there is no wrong. I'm just asking for opinion, so for us to get into a discussion. So what do you guys think? Anybody? When professional comes to mind, what is it?
I think it is how we should behave in the workplace.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Hairul. Yes. Anybody else?
For me, I think we having like the high standard, like we know how to behave in a certain situation.
Okay. Yes. A behavior as well, right? Anybody else?
Can I try?
Yeah. Sure.
Inshallah. Okay. For me, professional
Please,
is about they have a rules that we need to follow, and we cannot melebihi rules too.
Okay.
All
right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Then I just ask you. This one is a bit off, but still in professional. Okay. When you say about professional athlete, professional footballer, then you think, what do you mean by that? Then professional athlete, do they have the same rules like when you have a professional working in the office? What do you think? Anybody else? When we say, oh, he's a sorry, yes.
I think it's like athlete with many achievements.
Yeah. Yes. It's towards that achievement. What else? When you think about professional athlete and Olympics just complete, right? There's so many things when they interview gold medalists or any medalists, they'll talk about certain aspects of their life, certain sacrifices, for example. So what do you mean by this professional? What do you guys think?
I think professional, they have the required knowledge for them to do some specific jobs, like they have the knowledge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you see, it is the conduct, exactly what you guys have shared with me. You know, the conduct, the behavior, the attitude of someone in a work or business environment. When we talk about professional athlete even, right, they even have to actually take care of their diet, right? They're not dieting, but, you know, for example, like for me, I think all Malaysians would have watched a video or was concentrating on one of our silver medalists, right? Which is who? Dato Azizul, right? In one of his videos on YouTube, he shared actually the food hall of the Olympic village that he was in, and he actually showed, oh, this is actually the ice cream, but he said that, oh, this is a big no-no. After the race, I'll be eating this though. So you see, this is how they conduct a professional. Professionalism is how you conduct in the workplace, in a work environment, in a business environment. Imagine if you're trying to be professional in your home and your mother calls you to eat, right? And you say, okay, I will be there in 5 minutes. I mean, imagine so how formal that can be, but you don't do it, right, at home. But of course, now working from home, then you have to actually adjust to it. And that's a big, big change since last year, right? I'm guessing every one of us are still learning from home for all of you, right? You guys, all of you have not gone to campus at all, right? Yeah.
Not yet, sir.
Yeah. So similarly with me, so we'll be working from home. I'll touch upon that in a little bit more on professionalism, on the new norm. So why we do this? So professionalism leads to what? Workplace success, strong professional reputation, and of course, high level of work ethic and excellence, right? So all this is professionalism. Why? Okay, why I'm trying to take a professional athlete as an example is because that you can see it, you evidence it, how difficult it is to actually get a gold medal, right? That's the highest excellence. But to get there, you have to adhere to the work ethic, right? If, for example, you are supposed to train 8 hours a day, 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening, but you slack off. You only train 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, right? Do you really think with that work ethic, you will be able to reach the top of the world and win Olympic gold? I don't think so, right? Because if you go and read all the interviews, all the professional athletes at the Olympic, to reach Olympic itself is an achievement. And they have sacrificed so much. And to win medal is even better for them, right? But of course, when you win medals, you read about the news. For example, the Filipino who stayed in Malacca and did her weightlifting, you see what the rewards that she's gonna get, right? So it's the same thing. So put that into practice, and imagine you all of you, whether you are studying engineering, business, finance, when you do business or when you do work. So when you adhere to professionalism, it will lead you to a better career. All right. I'd just like to share with you. And these two are definitions of professionalism that I took from Virginia Tech. Okay. So you have to give credit where it's due. When you do your presentations and your research, I know you also do it. All right. Okay. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to share a little bit more about myself. And Nazlina was right. So 17 years. I started, I'm going to share with you my background first. Okay. So you see, this is a profile picture. You can see on LinkedIn. You can see now on video. So it has stayed the same, right? See the hairstyle. You see the janggut a little bit, right? So this is, I would say to you, I'm not going to touch on this topic today, but do you know what personal branding is? To stay consistent, to remain professional, and people know you for what you are, right? A little bit. Okay, then this is what I have gone through during my, well, many moons ago when I studied. If you see here, 1998, so you can more or less guess what my age is. So I started off my tertiary education in UPM, right? But it's not UPM in Serdang, it's in UPM in Terengganu. At that point of time, it was still known as UPM. And then now it has actually evolved to become University Malaysia Terengganu. Okay, so that's the name now, but that's the same campus. So then what happened was, because I went into fisheries, well, because it's a science stream, I was a science stream student. Okay. Then after my diploma, I got to talking with my parents. I got to know from the industry, and I decided on what my next career would be. And to expand my knowledge, I decided to enroll in a business. You can see there, Bachelor of Business in International Business, Trade and Commerce. So there's a double major there, and it was actually done with Victoria University. I decided to wait because, you know, I decided then, I think all of you would hear or have heard of this before, where when you do business, when you want to do business, you don't just have to do work professionally. Do business for you to get, well, obviously more money, right? So I was thinking to spread my breadth of knowledge, but of course I didn't know what to do then. Similarly, with some of you, you might have already, which is good. That's why you're here today. Where you want to go? What is your aim? Please have that. Okay, that is one of my lessons learned. Okay, but during my studies, I was never complacent or being a quiet guy. Every time there is a period of leave, I know some of you have to do some compulsory internship, right? During my time, there was no compulsory internship. So I went out and worked. Okay, so I worked in multiple places, to simplest places like, for example, Toys R Us, if you've heard of it before. It's still standing, but not so famous anymore, right? And then I worked in a call center. I worked with Sakura, worked with a lot of brands. Then finally, I graduated and I started working with HSBC. Okay, so you can see this profile in LinkedIn. By all means, please, I'm happy to connect. Okay, with anybody. Send me a connection request. I'll be happy to connect. I started with HSBC. Okay, with HSBC and a contact center. Okay, is because that previously during my studies I did so. Okay, so this is my first taste of professionalism. Okay, so in these organizations that I have worked with, whether it is HSBC, Standard Chartered, Citi, and also now Sime Berhad, okay, there will always be a code of conduct, okay, or expected behaviors of an employee. always will be, okay? And you will always also start it off with declaration and also learning, whether it is classroom learning or whether it is e-learning. They will always talk about the expectations when you join the company, okay? And this is an example of my organizations here, guys. How many of you here have actually done internships already? Can I just say yes, or put up your hand, or there's an icon that you can put up?
Currently doing my internship, sir.
Currently doing, good. Can I just see, just show of hands? You don't have to say yes also. Show of hands means, you know, the icon that, you know, that, okay. So I see there's a few, okay. So in the organizations that you are currently in, either you have done your internship or currently in internship, is there a manual or a code of conduct or a code of behaviors is there that you're expected to follow? Just not is fine, I can see. There is, right? I'm very sure there is, okay? Even if it's not, even if it's a small Sdn Bhd, even if it's a startup, for example, okay? They would have briefed you on, for example, what time you need to come in to work. See, that's an expectation. And that is being a professional, which is if you need to come into office at 9 o'clock and that is the expected behavior, then you need to be in office by 9. Or in the new norm, you need to log in by 9. Okay? You need to log in by 9. Then you have to do so. Some start at 8:30 in the afternoon. Some start at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. I have worked in shift in HSBC. My working hours start at 4 in the afternoon and I finish 2 in the morning. Okay. I've also experienced, they call it the graveyard shift. Either you work the weekend or you work 9 o'clock at night and you go off 6 in the morning the next day. Imagine, right? So after Isha, you start work. Subuh, you finish work. Imagine. So it's like that. So, but it's a choice, yeah. It's a choice. You are not forced to work those hours, because when you go for interview and then you get your offer letter, you would have received an offer letter stating your work hours. So that's very important, okay, for you to actually know your work pattern, for example, whether you are okay with it or not, right? And in certain organizations also, you work 4-day week, which means that in 7 days, you only work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you off. 3 days off. But there's a but. There's an obvious but. You work 12 hours a day instead of the normal 9 hours. Okay? So there is, so there's this balance. And people actually like to do it. They say that, okay, I'll work harder during those 4 days, but I get 3 days off to do whatever I want. So what I want to say is that, and then what would be the expectation? During your work time, that professionalism still kicks into play, which is you need to adhere to the break time. You need to, there was a contention because when I started working, even though at 9 p.m. at night, I was expected to wear a shirt and a tie. That was the earlier expectation. And then what happened was, through discussions with management, because it doesn't make sense for at 9 at night, because we're not meeting anybody, you see, okay? We are at a processing site. So the management gave a leeway for those night shifters who start at 9 to actually lose the tie, means the shirt and pants. And then it slowly, gradually became t-shirt with collar, with khakis. No jeans yet, no jeans yet. So you see, it evolves. But those are the rules. Those are the code of conduct that you need to follow. So when it was tie wearing, you need to wear that tie. And if you're not wearing, then you'll be called to the side and be reminded by your manager. And so far, we don't really have that problem. Okay, I will share with you, and it actually is one of my slides talking about the dress code. Okay, so you see here from HSBC to Standard Chartered, to Citibank, and also to Sime Berhad now. The culture, I want to tell you now, it's very, very, very different. Okay, so from global bank based in the UK and a global bank based in the US, which I mean based means the HQ is in the US, right? City. Standard Chartered and HSBC are headquartered in the UK, right? The expectations are very different. Similarly with Sime Berhad, it's totally different. Okay, so with Sime Berhad, for you to know, Sime used to be this very big entity, very big, which includes plantation and property. But in 2017, FYI to you, those who study or have taken notice, Sime actually split into three. And all three split companies are on the main Bursa board. So they are three different entities. So for me, I work with Sime Berhad, okay? Where you have the Sime Motors, Industrial, there's also insurance, then also healthcare, okay? And then plantation is one big entity by itself, and property is Sime Property, okay? But all are sister companies anyway. So why I tell you this is now is because that it is very different culture, and which I will talk and touch upon in a bit later, okay? So the culture that I'm in. So for example, now, Iskandar, if you don't mind, I've been conversing with Iskandar, okay, for the last few weeks, okay? There's a certain salutation that he gives to me, which is Mr. or Sir, right? Okay. Well, because we don't know each other, but because if we do know each other after this, I'm gonna be on a first name basis with him. I'm gonna tell him to drop the Mr. or Sir because that's not how I operate, and that's very important for you to know. How you address your seniors, how you address somebody in the workplace is very important, right? It is very important. It's part of the culture, and it's part of that unwritten rule. Okay, so HSBC, Stanchart, and Citi are all on the first name basis. So even with the CEO, I don't call him Mr. Sir, and he will tell the interns. Okay, so for example, like Citi, I was the talent manager there as well, and one of my portfolio is for new hire orientation, and also for internship. Also, I do internship orientation, and one of the activities is to actually meet up with the CEO. Okay, so one incident was a new hire wanted to ask a question, and then he said, "Mr. So and so." The CEO straight away stopped him and said that, "Okay, here in Citi, you do not have to address me as Mr. Just call me by my name." So that's what we call first name basis. But you have to be very, very, very vigilant, and you have to understand this, which I'll talk about later also on culture. Okay, some will want to be called Encik, Puan, Tuan, Mr. Okay. Different organizations have different culture. So this is the first one that I want to share with you. I want to show you my background and show you what I've experienced here. Okay. So with that, you have to be very careful, right? And the salutation of calling him or her out verbally, non-verbal, you still have to follow, which means that when you write email, you still have to put the salutation properly. So that's very, very important. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, that is a very simple tip I'm giving to you. But of course, how would you know, right? How would I know? So I also don't know what to do when I call people. Okay. So obviously, when you are going to interact with the recruiters for the first time, right? These are the first point of contact for you to ask. For you to ask on how can you address them, even when you're interviewing. Okay. Because if me, for example, then if you ask me, then I know that you are aware of this. It shows that you have that skill of understanding and you've done your research. Okay. So don't be afraid, ask, how may I address you today? Okay. Don't assume that it's on a first name basis. Okay. Just because you're going for an interview with a big global bank, for example, Bank of America, right? Or even Citibank, that you assume it's a first name. Usually it is, but just ask. Okay. Okay. Right now, by any chance, anybody have any questions? At this stage, all okay? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, hold on. I'm clicking, but it's not going okay. Okay. So, professionalism. I like to ask everybody on the call today, right? Is it a skill? Is professionalism a skill? What do you think?
I think yes, because we can we can work to it. It's a skill for me.
It's a skill, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? What do you guys think? Okay, let me just share something and then you tell me whether you think it's skill or not skill. Okay, so employers want new workers or even existing workers, right, to be a responsible employee, to be ethical, to be a great communicator. You would agree with me at this point in time, right? Yeah, these employees would want that, right? Of course, when they hire you, they would also want you to be able to work with one another. So you are team oriented, and also, of course, to problem solve together, to bring the organization to better heights, to greater heights. So what do you call, or what do we call these traits? Good communicator, good problem solver. What do you think these are known as?
Soft skill.
Yeah, soft skills, correct? So that's the answer. So you see, when you say soft skills, it is skills. So all this, right? So professionalism is not a skill by itself. Professionalism, right, are skills that are lumped together. Then you get your professionalism. It is not just one skill, but it's a combination of skills. So if you see that guy in the middle, okay, that one is just a picture, but any one of you can replace him and look very smart inside there, okay? And you look like a professional. But when you are a professional, we expect the employers and everybody, including your teammates, your managers, your head of departments, will expect you to be responsible, excellent in communication, can work together, right? But I've just mentioned being ethical and also problem solver. I'm going to cover some of the topics, sorry, not some of the topics, some of these skills a little bit more, okay, for today. But in a nutshell, professionalism is not just one skill, but it's a combination of skills. Yeah. So you really need to work in getting and acquiring those skills. But how do we do it? That's the big question. How do we become a great communicator? Anybody would like to share what they have done or what is your experience like? Hey, don't be shy, and it's not, there's nothing wrong, nothing right, okay? I like to know how do you define, oh, he's a great communicator?
Understanding.
What about understanding?
I think to be a good communicator, we have to join a lot of societies and programs, and when we join the programs, we have to present ourselves on how we want to be perceived by people, and we kind of practice a lot lah.
Okay, thank you very much. What about the rest?
I think first you need to have the determination that you want to be a great communicator.
Yeah, okay. You would want to have it, right? Because I will tell you now, a great communicator will go a long way in your career. Really, it does. Okay. This is the topic that I would like to talk about next. Okay. There's a lot of emphasis given to great communicators and to communication in general. Why? Okay. So now we live in, I'll take a general start first before I go into the professional workspace, okay? So now we live in a world where information is at your fingertips, literally. Why? Because all of us, for example, now in the new norm for the last 1.5 years, we connect virtually. People can just post whatever they want on social media, right? Yeah, so that's a form of communication. Very important for all of us, especially all of you, to be great communicators in knowing what to communicate, how to communicate, when to communicate. So basically all the 5 whys. So it's very important. So that's in the general sense. But what about in the workplace? So at the workplace or in the workplace, some of you would have gone for internships already. I'll break it down. Because this is what my theory is, not everyone else's. That is broken down. I will break it down into 2 categories. The first one is verbal communication, what we are doing now. Okay, actually what I'm doing, right? Talking to you, but also you're responding to me. We can hear. And the next category, I think you've guessed it already, would be non-verbal. Okay, but what does these 2 have in common, and why do I break it down? It has a very big link. You really cannot separate them. Why I say that is because let's look at the definition and what it entails. Let's focus on verbal first, right? So with verbal, you already know, okay? It's either spoken. So when people think it's verbal, it's spoken only. But verbal also means this. It's written. Okay? So this 2 is very, very important in the working world. To me, why these 2 is very, why I've breaken down into 2 is because that, for example, when you meet somebody, okay, you go into a meeting. After the meeting, you want to follow up with the action plan on what we need to do next. You can call up the person and confirm, but the standard reality is that you will prepare minutes, right? And then you will communicate written via email, for example, okay? We need to know what we want to use, when we want to use. Okay. So the next one is, when to use it formally. So spoken, we usually use it, okay, when it is informal. I'll call up one of you and say, hey, the meeting is actually 10 o'clock tomorrow, okay? Don't be late. And I'm saying it. But what do I do with being formal is, I have to follow up with an email invite, giving the link or the venue, right? And also time and date. And that makes it a formal invitation. Do you guys have any questions on that? You have to differentiate between formal and informal. So there are times also that you will say that, oh, but he already told me about it. He's already spoken about it in the meeting. Okay. that will and can still be taken as informal, you know, because it can be disputed unless it's recorded. This happened to me many times in my career. I can tell you now. So this sharing session, right, is to share my experience of what's really happening. And I can tell you now, I have experienced it so many times before in all the organizations. And even out of that 4, I've worked with other organizations before, right? They do this. If you have spoken to somebody, but you need to then rely on it to make a decision, or to actually make the person make a decision, you need to put it into formal writing. Basically, in layman terms, we call it what? Black and white. Okay, it's black and white. So then that is the evidence, right, that we would use to perform our actions. Even, and it's especially important when I go on to a one-to-one conversation meeting. One-to-one. Okay. In the new norm, I go on to a video call such as this, one-to-one, but the call is not recorded. I know this session is recorded, but that video call is not recorded. Then the next day, the other person will come to me and say, hey, yesterday you wanted me to do this, 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 this. And I'll turn around and say that, but no, you agreed to do this XA, ABC. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah, so that is very, very important. Some of you might think in yourself like, oh, no wonder, okay. Then you think about what happened to you during your internship, for example. All those instructions that come, okay. Yes, it can be verbal via spoken, but I would advise you to jot it down and resend back via email to confirm those are the exact actions that you need to take. Really. Okay. Even if, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, take this paperwork. Okay, divide it into parts A, B, and C. Save it in file A, B, and C, and then create a folder D. Can you follow? Okay, so that's a simple instruction. Then you're like, huh? Okay, you try and do it. And then the next day, the instructor will come to you, say, no, I didn't say create folder D. I only save, not even save in folder A, B, or C. I'll just say all 3, break it, but save it in folder A. So to avoid miscommunication, you please follow up accordingly and put it into black and white, especially if it involves formal work. Okay. Any questions? Or anybody want to share their experience? Anybody?
Mr. Amirul,
Yes, yes.
I just have a question. Let's say if we have communicated with the supervisor on the task that we need to do through, let's say, an internal messaging platform.
Yeah.
But then again, somehow we still manage to not perform our work as per the agreed instructions. So how do we resolve that? Because I think sometimes the problem with working from home, especially when interacting on a messaging platform, is that spoken communication, written communication is not as fulfilling or as informative as spoken communication could be. So yeah, any
Yes.
Any tips on how to resolve that kind of problem?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So that has happened and is still happening to me, even. Okay. Yes, because there's a lot of internal messaging platform. Okay, and we're not talking about WhatsApp, right? Because WhatsApp is external. Okay, it's internal. Okay, even internally, even internal messaging, sometimes the chat gets lost in translation. It can get, all right? It can get. First of all, when you do communicate there, you try to make it as clear as possible, right? But still there would be some details, okay, that is not incorporated in there. What I would do, and I would advise you, all right, is to follow up with an email. Okay. I actually do two things. I'll follow up with a call and an email. Okay. So for example, I have colleagues who's not sitting in Malaysia. They are actually sitting in Australia. And I am requesting for a big data, not to say file, but big data information. Okay. 1 year worth. So what do I do? Number one, I would chat with this person via the internal messaging chat. Okay, I would chat. Okay, this is the requirement. This is what is required by the group. However, I say, I would prefer to speak to you about this so that we can get clarity, and you can ask me any questions to clarify, so that the end result, the data shared, is what I want, or as per requested. So in the chat, I've already told her about it. Okay. And then I ask her, when is she available? Then I will speak to her. Sometimes they're available at that spot, at that point of time, and straight away I pick up the phone and call. So that chat is already there. The phone call is already there. Then what I do is, I will follow up with a formal email on my request. So similarly, if you have a supervisor that has asked you to do certain actions, right? Then you understand. If both of you, if it's simple enough that you can go through a chat, by all means, it's fine. But then you have your doubts whether what you're doing is the right way or not. Okay? You need to speak to that person again. Either you follow up with an email, or before that email, I would strongly suggest a phone call, because that's how you build relationship. Okay, why I say that also is that building relationship is very important in your professional workspace. I have joined my current organization in January 2021 during the pandemic. Okay, and I've only been into office very sporadically, maybe sometime in March, April, 1 week, 2 weeks, right? And most of my interaction has been on the virtual mode. So you can imagine, I'm trying to build a relationship, right? There's a limit to how many people want to go on the video call, okay? And then, of course, through chatting. So that's how we do it. After you chat, give them a call. If they're not available, drop an email. It is best to clarify your task and the request or the requirement, rather than you put in all the effort one full day, and then when you submit, they'll come back and say, no, this is not what I wanted. You just wasted 1 day of your life that you will not get back. Rather than picking up the phone and speak to that person for 5 minutes and you get it right the first time. Okay? And that goes to my second one, which is communication verbally. You'll have to look at whether it is synchronous or asynchronous. And synchronous is where it takes place immediately. If it's super urgent that you need to know the information, give them a call. But if not, you can follow up, or you can just write an email, okay? Because you may expect the item to be given to you tomorrow or day after, right? This one, I've just touched upon it. It's very important. Recorded versus unrecorded. So your internal messaging chat, right, is actually recorded. I have not come across any internal messaging platform that is not recorded. Every internal messaging platform for organizations I've worked with, everything got history. Some of you might not know this, but I'm telling you now, they have history. So my point is, please be careful of what you put inside your chat. It might be an informal conversation, okay? But it's recorded. Okay, so unrecorded is basically unrecorded. You know, have a chat. Even with the new norm, for you to go into Zoom, right? Unless you record, then it's recorded. Or else it'll just be a normal verbal conversation. So that is why it's very important to know when do you need to record that conversation. How important is that conversation? Because you will always fall back on it when you need to make a decision later or when you revisit certain actions. And that's very important. I'm not touching about how at this stage, how means like, how do you write an email? What do you need to input? There'll be too detailed and today's session will just not be enough to cover all of that. So I'm just saying and highlighting or giving my experience on certain aspects of communication. Okay. Any questions so far? Everybody okay? Okay.
Yes,
I'm going to go to, yes, please go ahead. So far, okay?
Yes, we're fine.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll go to the non-verbal. Okay, because I'm conscious of time also. Okay, so for non-verbal, okay, some of you might laugh or might think like, okay, this one we know already, but I'm just sharing. To me, what I'm sharing today is important because I've experienced it, right? So number one, your facial expressions. So when you are in the new norm now, some meetings you can off your video. For example, now, okay? Yes, there was a request for you to on the video so that I can see and there's greater interaction. But some meetings that you go for, you need to on the video. It's being made mandatory, for example. Okay. So your facial expressions, well, it gives you a saying that it is very important. You would think like, oh no, it's not, but it is. It's very important in the professional world. All right. When you talk, when you look away, your eye contact, everything people will notice. Okay. And hopefully we may go to the office soon. And hopefully when you do join the workforce, the professional workforce, it will be in the office with some elements of virtual working. Okay. So facial expressions are very, very important. People will be able to tell whether you are sad, okay, whether you're not happy, because when you put on a frown, people will see. When put on a smile, people will be able to see. And you don't even have to actually say anything, but your facial expressions can give it away. All right, so be careful. Be mindful of it. The next one is for head movements. Okay. So it depends here, because head movements for me are culture specific. And in some of my former colleagues, head movements mean nothing. Because whether the answer is a yes or whether the answer is a no, their head will move sideways. Okay. So you'd have to understand that. So if I am in a meeting and this other person in front of me was nodding, but I understand that he comes from a culture where head movement will always happen regardless of the answer, So I will not take it as anything. I will leave it as is. If I want to know what this person thinks, I have to ask him a question and I will wait for him to answer. Then I know what he feels. Because sometimes he'll just say no, but he will shake his head. But if he say yes, he will say, yeah, yes. So how would I know? So I have to then listen to what he says. So it's very important for me. I've experienced it with the 3 previous organizations. Not yet the current one. It's a global bank. There are certain nationalities. So that's why I say culture is very important in that. Okay. The next one is, you may have guessed this already, hand gestures. Your hand gestures, okay, even crossing your arms, okay. What do you think? Okay, what do you think crossing your arms in a meeting full of people means? Somebody, the leader is talking, okay, and you cross your arms. You cross your arms means like this. Okay. What do you think that represents or that shows? Anybody?
The person is angry.
Can be, yes.
Disagreement.
Disagreement, some more? Yes, yes.
Maybe it's not polite, sir.
Yeah, okay. So that person is showing some sort of, can be defensive, yeah, can disagree, right? So basically it's a negative connotation. So see, so then when I'm talking, okay, some, for example, my colleagues, right, or now ex-colleagues, right, but some still friends, what he had done was, he was giving a presentation. Maybe he's nervous, I don't know, but guess where his hands were placed? It's a person, it's a male. His hands were placed in his pocket. Both hands, both pockets. And imagine he's doing a presentation. So he's standing, he's not sitting down, he's standing up and both his hands in his pocket. So how do you think would your colleagues or the management would react to this? What does it mean, do you think? Anybody? Both hands in the pocket.
Not serious.
Yeah, not serious. One of them, definitely. What else?
The person is shy, sir.
Shy, could be. Yes. What else?
Maybe he think he's better.
Sorry, he's what?
Arrogant.
He's
arrogant. Yeah, see? So it could be all that. He could be shy and he's afraid and his hands are actually trembling because he's presenting to the senior management. So to avoid people to see that he's anxious or afraid, he puts his hand in his pocket, right? He could be also super confident and arrogant and I don't care. I'm the expert in this. Whatever I say, you just listen. It could be as well, right? To me, again, it gives the wrong connotation when people see this. So that's why it's very important for you to know so that in the future, you don't do this. But there are also positive hand gestures, right? So for example, if you are presenting and you don't have a pointer with you, you will point with your hand. Or to make a point. What I'm doing now, you won't be able to see a lot, but when I do facilitate, there's a lot of hand gestures appropriately, okay? So there's also the positive and the negative. So that's how we communicate non-verbally. The next non-verbal on how we communicate, okay, it's your appearance. Although I will cover the dress code in a little bit, but appearance means appearance, all, not just what you dress, how you walk. All right, okay. For gentlemen, even your facial hair, your hair, how you make it for the day, the way you slouch. So when you go to the office, right, people like, oh, you're lazy for the day, you will slouch instead of sitting straight, really. So that is your appearance, you see. So these are all non-verbal. Imagine in a meeting, you're sitting up straight. Suddenly you hear something that you do not want to hear, or a person who you are really not in favor in, unconsciously, then you slouch. Then people, that's a signal saying that, oh, you don't really like to hear, or you don't like this person, right? So for me, working for those years that I've worked, I will always have to notice this, especially when you manage people later in your career, okay? Because when you go in, you are, reporting to a manager. One day, people will report to you and you will have subordinates. So if you feel that you need to, for example, share important information, you would want everybody to pay attention, right? So from these non-verbal communication styles, for example, this appearance, the slouching bit, you will be able to tell whether they are paying attention or not. So these are the skills that you will pick up. You can pick up now itself. If you go to your lecture, you can notice how many of your friends are actually paying attention to the lecturer. And I tell you now, your lecturer notices how many people are actually paying attention. Okay? They know. But that's why you can't win everybody. If 100% is it's impossible for 100% of the time to listen to you. I conduct trainings on a regular basis, and I also conduct leadership training. So all the senior guys are there. Okay. At one moment, one of them will be picking up their phone replying to a text. Okay. At one moment, somebody will just doze off. Literally, the eyes will be closed. And I'm not even talking about a 50 big classroom. Maybe about 20 people. All right. But this how you appear is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. For you to be known as a professional and for you to conduct professionalism at your workplace. Okay. For me, the last bit is physical distance. At this stage, well, you don't have, because you're supposed to be physically distant anyway when you meet people, right? But I feel that it's very important. Why? It is how you actually approach the other person. Some individual like to talk in a very close manner. Close means very close to you. Okay? They don't like to shout. They don't want people to hear, for example. Okay? It may be confidential, or it's just the nature of that person. But some person will just stand without social distancing. They are already standing 1 meter away from you. But again, it goes back to the culture. You need to understand that, right? Even with the same gender or different gender. I will share that later also about ethics, in ethics, but just share a snippet before we actually go for break. That if, for example, I'm a male and then Iskandar comes to me, okay, and he wants to speak to me about something, okay, and he gets very close. If I'm not comfortable, then I will tell him, I think, can you please back away a bit? I'm not comfortable you leaning into me, okay? And that's guy and guy. Female and female. Don't even have to say female and male, okay? But it depends also on the culture itself. If you are okay, and both of you are okay, and the understanding is there, no worries. But that's why it's very important for you to be aware of the organization's culture and the individual understanding. You may not know it immediately, but it's through observation that you will know more of this matter. Okay? To me, it's very important. And I'm just talking about physical distance. I'm not even talking about what they call it, touching. There's a lot of people who actually, when they talk to one another, they like to reach out, you know. There's certain limitations there as well that you need to understand. Okay, so it goes without saying that we need to be very careful on how we interact, verbal and non-verbal. By understanding this concept, right, you would be able to increase your professionalism. I'm not even talking about what you should say. For example, the words you should say, words you shouldn't say, and how you should say it. Okay, what I'm sharing is just very basic stuff that I hope had given you some information. So this is about non-verbal, verbal. So before we break, I know there's a break coming in 3 minutes. Based on the latest itinerary shared by Iskandar, I would like to ask everybody, are there any questions at all? Or not questions, would you like to share anything? I would also like to hear from you on this communication bit. What's your experience during internship?
Assalamualaikum. Hello, I actually have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we all are like humans, right? And that includes our boss. And sometimes that we see that our boss, for example, or our higher ups, they do certain mistake that is like kind of like detrimental, that is like really needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it's going to be affected badly in the long run. And so how do we communicate this kind of like feedback to make sure that, you know, they are aware of that shortcoming of themselves lah, without us sounding rude. You know, we want to give like macam nak tegur kan.
Yeah.
We want to tegur, but don't want to sound rude. You know, we just want to make sure that the work is going to be done in the best way possible, and that's why we want to tegur.
Okay. So first off, okay, this one happens a lot. This one actually happens a lot. Okay, even to me also. Okay. So it's because that sometimes when the superiors or even head of departments, when they make decisions as human beings, right? Sometimes we make decisions based on what has happened previously. Okay. But then when you come in, because you see things from a different perspective, because you're fresh, right? Or it's because that you have the knowledge and that's why you were hired. Okay. Just say now, number one, okay, supervisor, your supervisor tells you, oh no, your supervisor actually makes a decision already and tells everybody, number one, look at the situation that you want to give that feedback. When you want to give it the feedback, number one. Okay. Usually as human beings, let me ask you, not just to him, but to everybody also. Do you like to be given feedback in public or one-to-one?
One-to-one.
So I think there's several answers there, right? Okay. So if that person, that supervisor of yours has made a decision and announced it in a team meeting, number one, I would strongly suggest that you do not say or give feedback to him in that meeting with everybody in. Unless he or she is already saying, okay, this is what I think the decision should be. What do you guys think? It's a discussion. If it's not a discussion, let it be. Let it be means, okay. Let it be means, hear the decision out. Okay, oh, it's already done. Oh, then don't rebut in public. But if it's through an email to everybody, then you have to decide what you want to do. Okay. So far from my, even for me as a manager, I receive feedback. I received before, okay? And something that is constructive, and I as a human being don't want to listen to it, right? Because all of us have egos and all that, but you need to be open. So as I'm speaking, I am also that supervisor. I was there before. So then if you come to me and say that, Mr. So or Miss So, can we talk about this? Then say, what is it? You approach him or her on a one-to-one. Okay? And then you say, okay, you want to discuss about the decision. When you go and discuss about the decision, number one, it's same with issues also. If you disagree with the decision, Then you say you disagree. However, you would also come up why you disagree and a solution to it. I would say come with the full package. Some people will say, oh, I don't agree. Why? Because I don't agree. So what's the basis of your disagreement, right? So if you don't agree and you feel it's detrimental to the organization or the team, you would know, oh, cannot because this one will ABC reason. You know for yourself. Then, what do you think should the decision be? To your opinion, the decision should be like this, like this, like this. Again, give me reasoning. Why you think it should happen that way? So at the very least, when you come with a package, you have voiced out your opinion. And for me as a manager, although that's of course there's a but and however and all this, right? Although the decision, for example, if the decision has been made, but it is really from the management and we cannot change it, as a manager, then I will discuss and I'll inform you accordingly. But I fully acknowledge and I appreciate team members who actually come to me with that. Because as you mentioned, we are human beings. Sometimes we do make mistakes. We do, even at senior management level. Hence why, if you notice, even at a CEO level, there is a board of directors to counter-check the decisions made. Okay? Even now, for example, when I'm working, right, when I present a paper to CEO approves, fine. And 3 months down the line, the board will then check back and audit back whatever has happened, you see. And certain decisions, CEOs even cannot. You must go to the board for approval. So what I'm saying is that, even at that level, so at a lower level, all decisions made, right, will always have this check and balance. So sometimes these managers fully appreciate when you come and actually share your opinion. And then when you come in with your opinion, when I say a full package, because you come in with a different opinion, and then from a different perspective, especially coming in from your generation, really, for me, I would appreciate. And that's how I would approach it. I hope that answers your question on how I...
Yes.
Yeah. A bit long, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, a bit long. Sorry, Iskandar or Nazina, it's 4 minutes after 3:40, which is supposed to be break time.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful sharing of your experience to give us a clear vision of how to communicate in our future workplace. I bet we can expect more from our speaker, but before that, we will have a 10-minute break. You may go for a walk around your room, have some drinks, or go to the washroom. We will resume our session at 3:55 p.m. All right, thank you.
I hope you had the rest. We will now go into a topic that's well, a bit interesting, okay? And these are just some samples that I want to share with you. I'm also keen to know what do you think of this and also what you are currently experiencing, okay? So these are just some samples, but in reality, okay, I'll go through it one by one. All right, so you see, that's the first one. So in being a professional, okay, when we talk about appearance just now, right? So the first thing that will come in, oh, appearance, how do I dress? Yeah, so this is what it is. Some organizations have this, most organizations, and for me, all the organizations that I've worked with, all will have a dress code policy. Okay, it's not a sample, it is a dress code policy. It is an expectation of what you wear, and even how you wear it and when you wear it. Okay, why I say that is because that, if you see here, not acceptable. But please bear in mind, yeah, with the current professional working environment we are in now, in the new norm, right? This is going to be your home. If you're at your home, I don't think so that the dress code policy will need to be adhered to unless you are called into a meeting where you will need to share your video. Okay, even then also it's a bit relaxed. Even with my current organization and my previous organization as well. So this one is meant for when you go back into the office, for you guys when you actually graduate and also join the workforce. Again, some organizations are a bit more relaxed. Okay, I'll give you an example. Citibank. So you'll be thinking, oh, Citibank, you'd actually have to wear tie, suit, slacks, and for ladies, really have to wear long dress, for example. But City Malaysia dress code policy is actually smart casual all the time. And what it means by smart casual is on this side. It's acceptable. Yeah. Unless you are meeting clients, then the dress code will be a little bit different. But generally for City Malaysia, the dress code is smart casual 24/7. So you're allowed to have this, to wear this. Okay, on this side. Okay, so these golf shoes are not acceptable. This one is just sample. Okay. But some departments will allow overalls or jeans to work. Okay. This is more standard. This is more standard, and if you see for the ladies and even gentlemen, it is saying that it is brightly colored or patterned shirts. Yeah. So in this organization, you cannot wear a black shirt. Even though it's a shirt, you cannot wear black. You cannot wear dark gray. You can't wear dark blue. It needs to be brightly colored. For example, white I am wearing now. Maybe bright yellow or bright or blue that is not dark blue but light blue, like the sky blue color. Okay, so if you see there also, the ladies for the second sample, it says there, sorry, it's a bit small, but it says that closed toe pumps, which means that closed shoes. You're not allowed to wear open sandals. So you need to adhere to all this. Okay, and then if you don't agree, that's always the issue. If you don't agree with the dress code policy already, then you have to voice out. Why? Because you're coming to work in what you feel is comfortable, but you need to be comfortable following the rules that's already there. And the rules are set for certain reasons, for certain organizations. Like I mentioned just now, branding. For me, there's personal branding, but for organizations, there's branding. Plus, you meet customers. So, even though you meet customers, even though you're the front line, you're sales, for example, a banking sales executive would dress differently than a telecommunication sales executive. I think you guys can see it. Okay, and that goes without saying. Then we have to follow the rules accordingly. Okay, so if you think that, remember when you went to sekolah rendah and sekolah menengah, right, you'd have to wear your uniform. So in the workplace, it's not a uniform per se. Oh, but some workplace have to wear uniform. But then there's still dress code. So from young, we have been taught, okay, and it's to discipline us when we go into the professional working environment. So that's why it's very important. Okay, so this one, it's more business casual dress. So if you see here, City Malaysia, for example, even Standard Chartered is like this now. Okay, even HSBC. So anyway, so a lot of the global banks have now changed, and they are now like this. If you see what they are wearing and what they are actually in their hands, they are carrying, right? So these are usually what the dress code policy is. And for ladies, for example, if you see that in there, there's a dress, okay? And also, and also some organizations are very strict. So some individuals who wear skirts, for example, it needs to be not higher than 2 inches above the knee, for example. it's very specific. Okay, all the organizations are very specific. Okay, and then there are also dress code policy where the dress cannot be too tight, even though it's covering your whole body. So for example, you wear a baju kurung or baju kebaya, it cannot be tight fitting. There are rules against it, right? Then they mention it in the code of conduct and the dress code policy, definitely. Okay, and then if you wear loose jeans, some departments say, oh yeah, you can wear jeans, loose jeans. You cannot wear torn jeans. Torn, but it doesn't show your skin, but behind the torn, you can see there's another layer. Again, not acceptable. Okay. Open sandals for men are never acceptable. You can wear your trainers, your sneakers. Okay. And even though you wear a collared t-shirt, you have to be very, very careful with the logo and the branding that's on the shirt. Example. Standard Chartered actually is the sponsor for a English football club, right? Okay. So then there's an unwritten rule that other jerseys are not permitted in the office. Okay, that's unwritten. Okay, because Standard Chartered is a sponsor for a big English club, right? So it's like that. So you have to be very careful on this. Okay. Any questions or any observations on what I've just shared with regards to dress code policy? Anybody? So far, you have a general idea of what you can wear or what you are expected to wear, right? Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
can we wear baju Melayu?
Oh yes, definitely. Baju kebangsaan is always welcome, especially on a Friday. And I recommend wear the full suit with the sampin and the not the tonggolo, maybe songkok. But yeah. But yes,
All right,
yes.
thank you.
Usually you'll see the baju kebangsaan they will wear on the Fridays, right? But if it's a formal day, then it's smart casual, then you would be wearing the baju Melayu, but it cannot be the top is baju Melayu and then the bottom is a different pants, because sometimes then it becomes informal. Then that it can only be worn on a Friday. So on a normal days, if it's a full suit, then it's a formal suit already, right? Yeah. And then there's also some JLCs, they follow the government where Thursdays you are on batik. Okay, on Thursdays, yes, some JLCs. So then the conclusion is check your dress code policy. If it's not anywhere in documented, please check with your senior managers or managers, and also in your code of conduct book. Okay, I want to talk about this ethics. Okay, I'll give you the definition. I want to discuss the words more. So it's defined as the moral code that guides the behavior employees with respect to what is right and wrong, to your conduct and your decision making. Okay, so when you make decisions, people will say, oh, it must be ethically correct. Yeah, because if you wanna, for example, if you are receiving money, okay, from the customer, ethically you should take the money and deposit it into the organization's account. Not take the money and put it into your account first and use it, and after a few days you replace it back into the organization's account. So that's ethically wrong. Okay, so that's an example. So with ethics, why is it important and how would you describe it? So when people say ethics, right? Why, any one of you please share, why do you think it's important to have ethics, especially in the workplace? Anybody besides Khairul already? He's answered quite a bit. I would love to hear other voices. I see there's 100 people here. You don't have to on your camera if you don't want to. Anybody, when you say, okay, ethics, why is it important? Why do we have to have it? Even in your schools, right? I'm very sure you have to adhere to ethics. Maybe you can share.
I think
Yeah.
maybe to show our attitude and people trust to us if we have the good ethic.
Yes. Okay. That's actually one of the words I'll share later. And that trust and to have good ethics with people and they trust us, right, is actually, relationships that we build. If you have good ethics, people, yes, will definitely want to connect with you and ultimately have good relationships in the office, right? Great. What about the rest? Anybody? Why do we have to have ethics in the workplace?
May I try?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's important to have work ethics, especially in the workplace, because we don't want to follow our superiors blindly if, let's say, they do promote unethical conduct in the office.
Yes, that is very important, and that's code of conduct. Okay, please do not follow your leaders blindly, be it your immediate or few steps above you. Okay, and then it has happened before where they will tell you, it's okay, this is how we do things, and that is not right. A lot of individuals you will meet later will try and cover behind, but this is how we have done things for the last few years and nothing wrong with it. But if you feel that is something wrong, ethically wrong, please highlight. Thank you very much. Okay. With ethics, having good ethics will actually lead to better rewards, right? So professionalism, when we have defined it earlier also, it will steer you towards excellence, correct? And with excellence at workplace, it will always comes with rewards. What if we do not adhere to ethics? What if we break? What happens?
Our reputation will drop and
Yes.
it is immoral.
Yes, definitely. Damage to the reputation. What else? Besides reputation, what else do you think? Anybody?
Punishment, consequence.
Yes, that's the consequence. Yes, okay. I'll talk about the consequence in a bit later, but thank you for highlighting. What else do you think? What about
Legal
employee?
repercussions?
Sorry?
Legal repercussions?
Yes, it will come to that. And that is something that you really do not want to happen either to yourself or to your organizations. Because number one, it's costly. Number two, it goes back to that reputational risk. Okay. You do not, and your time will just so be wasted, not just your time, but everybody's time. Okay. That goes to here, employee performance. If you notice, I put performance in lighter gray is because that we are talking about damages, right? So it could have an impact, a negative impact towards employee performance if ethics are not adhered to. Imagine a company where you work with, right? There's no rules. You can just do whatever you do, come whatever time you want, as long as you do, for example, you do the sales that's required. You can cheat on the form, you can lie to the customers. Imagine a workplace that is like that and does not follow ethics. It's not a company that I don't think so you would want to work in. Okay. Then we talk about risk. That's why it's red, because by not following ethics, it's just a big risk that we do not want to happen to us. Okay. Job satisfaction is related to when you do ethics properly. You're happy to come to work. Okay. Trust, which we have covered just now. That's the first question. That's the first answer I received, right? So with ethics, we build trust with our colleagues, our reputation, our stakeholders. So the stakeholders could be our shareholders, could be the government, can be our customers. It's very, very, very important that we follow ethics at our workplace. Okay. Mutual means why I highlighted a bit also. It's mutual agreement. It's mutual understanding. That it goes both ways. Ethics at the workplace is not done by one person alone, but it's the whole organization. All right. And benefits, again, what we get out of it, how it can benefit the organization and also the employees. Okay. So consequence. Okay. So I'll talk about consequence if you don't adhere to it. So there's a lot of organizations out there that have different practices with regards to the severity of how ethics either is not followed or broken. Okay, so I'll just give you an example, or I'll just ask you. Okay, you have a mandatory class that you need to attend. You need to attend, and attendance is taken. If you don't attend for the first time, what is the consequence? Anybody? So in UAE, okay, maybe different lectures and different, this one will take it differently, right? But from general perspective, if you have a mandatory class, you need to come in and you need to sign off the attendance. Okay, you don't come and you don't sign. What is the consequence?
Tolak markah. Get warning.
Get warning. Okay. Oh, first time straight away get warning. Okay. Anyway, it's okay. Get warning. Okay, or tolak markah. Okay. So you'll get deduction. So from 100%, you are supposed to come 5 mandatory classes. You only attend 3. So 2, they minus 40%, which is a lot. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but anyway, you get my point. So it's the same. So with ethics, right? So you will see what has happened. Working in banking, okay. So there's a lot of, how to say this, temptation. Okay. Imagine if you're working handling thousands of ringgit, hundreds of thousands of ringgit, you can actually feel and hold the cash. You hold the cash. You imagine. And then day in, day out, you're all okay. One fine day, somebody in your family gets into trouble and you need money. Big temptation. You're looking at thousands, you're working with thousands of ringgit a day in your daily transaction. What can happen? So you break the law, okay, by taking some of the money. So then the bank will look at the severity, how much, how frequent, when, okay. It could be then you'll be moved to another department with a severe warning, no promotion, no increment, or it could be straight away a termination. Okay, and then it goes also with ethics. It could be to your behavior as well. Okay, I'm very sure you've heard of this term before, harassment, be it sexual harassment or just a standard harassment. Okay, bullying, discrimination, all this falls under ethics. Okay, and in my experience, I'm the one who carries out the relevant training year in, year out for my organizations, especially City. And I've heard and I've seen so many. So remember the physical distance I was talking about earlier? Okay, so even that can be an issue. Okay, so for example, just now I was giving you a real life example of a male and a male. So this one particular male sitting down in his desk doing his work was basically harassed by another male, by this male coming to his desk very often, gossiping and talking about non-work related. So what's the impact? And this guy actually sits down on the table of the other person. But this person, imagine you are trying to do your work and this guy keeps on coming to you. Okay? So what's the impact? Can you do your work? I don't think so. Even if you can, it's with distraction. Imagine he comes every hour, talk about everything that's talk about under the whole world, right? And this is harassment. Okay, so obviously action were taken against that guy, and then they see how frequent it has happened, and the guy admitted and thinks that, oh, I did nothing wrong, I just wanted to say hi and all that. but that's why you have to feel and see how the other party is going to react. Okay, another one that I like to share with you with ethics is, and you need to be very careful, especially in the new norm, is what you say. Very important. Okay, I'll share out of the norm, but in the new norm, when you're talking to people over video or over the phone now, over this platform, you can't touch, right? But be careful of the words that you say. Okay, especially if you think that the jokes are harmless. Okay, it could have double meaning jokes, but I really don't want to share here. Okay, so what I say is that to you the joke is harmless, but to other individuals it might not be. Okay, I'll give you a sample. Please don't get me wrong, this is purely a sample, right? Okay, so a male, we're talking now, and I'm a male, and I'm talking in team meeting. In team meeting got female and male also. Okay, then we were talking about food. Okay, talking about food, and then I say, then I just say lah, this one example. Iskandar, this is an example lah. I'm not saying about you. I'm just saying, Iskandar, kau tengok tak buah dia hari tu besar kan? And then there's another guy say, betul-betul, dia punya buah besar. So definitely, for me, I would mean buah durian ke, or buah rambutan, whatever buah lah, right? But maybe the connotation is such that when I say that, right, I I gelak-gelak. So that's a double meaning already, kan? So the ladies inside there, regardless if you are making jokes about them or not, but that's already a sexual connotation. If the ladies are uncomfortable and they want to report it, they will. And they can. And action can be taken against you. And it has happened before. So I'm saying, so now today it's about professionalism, right? Professional etiquette. So this is the etiquette that you need to be very wary of. In this new norm, what you say is very important. Your intentions are irrelevant because it is your behavior and what you speak about. People can hear and people can see, correct? Niat is not important here. You can say, oh no, but I was just joking. I was just trying to liven things up. I'm sorry, it will not hold water. Consequences can be taken. And from my experience, consequences has been taken. Okay, I'll give you another example. Okay, but this is real life. This one is when you go into the workforce later on. You go to the office. When you work in a multinational company, for me, I had colleagues from other countries, other region, other geography. So this guy was from Europe. Okay, he's a manager. Then there is another person who is not his direct report, but a different team, was having a difficulty. This manager was a male. This other person who was having difficulty is a female. This female was crying. This manager, with the full intent of asking how she is, told her, come, let's go to a room, let's talk about this. What seems to be the problem? Then they went into a meeting room, just the two of them. Then this individual who had a problem shared some problem. This manager, in trying to console this person, male manager, trying to console a female employee, coming from Europe, he hugged her. Okay, but the intention is to console her because she was crying, and to say that no, don't worry, the problem not really big, can settle on, right? Things like that. The next thing that happened was that female employee was not happy because she felt that the manager was taking advantage of her situation. And she reported. So that's why I say your intentions are irrelevant. Okay, it may be the best intention in the world, but it is how you behave, how you react, how you say what you say is very important. Okay, and then that's why it's very important also to know the culture of the organization. Please get to know. And this is the next topic that I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about to you now, which is a workplace culture. It is a shared values, belief, attitude, and the set of assumptions that people in the workplace share. What is acceptable? In Malaysia, okay, it is not acceptable for opposite gender to hug, for example. Okay, but in some organizations, but in Malaysia, it is. So you really have to be very careful on this. Okay, so you see in this meeting, at this workplace, it could be in an office, it could be at a site, it could be when you're alone on a Zoom call like this. Okay, or it could be an open office like that, an empty office, that it could happen. All right, you need to know the company culture. How can you know? So I'm trying to share with you on how you can know. These are 5 steps that you can look at. So I'm giving you my experience and my tips, how you can look at. Number 1, you will look at the onboarding process. So you went for interview already. You done your research already. Okay. You're happy and you say, okay lah, I want to join. Okay. But remember, every time also when you join an organization, usually there will be a probationary period. So that probationary period, right, ladies and gentlemen, it goes 2 ways. You are evaluating the organization. The organization also is evaluating you. Very important. So with the onboarding process, you try and see, is it organized or not? Were you informed in a timely manner? Did you receive the email, for example, okay, today is your orientation day. It starts at this time, at this is the venue, okay? And they'll give you the itinerary straight away, which is great. Then you join, oh, you can see, yeah, it actually follows. And then when I say creative is, okay, in the new norm, how are you going to be onboarded, you think? If you see on LinkedIn, right, a lot of people are onboarded virtually, okay? And then the organization will have an e-learning for introduction to the organization. They will send the laptop to you, right? They will have these goodies. A lot of organizations do that. So then you have to then see whether you, on your first day, did you receive your laptop or not, for example? Or they know, the organization knows that they're not going to give you any laptop. They'll tell you that please use your laptop first, because in our organization, we do not give out laptops, but we use desktop in the office. So that's why you have to understand and evaluate the onboarding process. Look at the leadership. How open are they? How acceptable? Are you okay with following the hierarchy? Okay. Or are you not okay? You'd like to be able to speak to the CEOs direct. Even in a big organization. So for example, like me, my experience is I was able to see anybody from the makcik cleaner to the cafe owner to the CEO to any managers. Okay, it's an open concept. I've been very lucky. Okay, but you need to be very, very wary and understand the company culture. If the company culture say, okay, before you actually see the senior manager, you need to go and see his PA and book a time. He does not want to be to have a impromptu meeting because he's very organized. Fine, you need to understand that. Okay, so please go and understand. So look at the incentive program. Is it inclusive? Is it generous? What I mean by inclusive is Is it to all levels or only to a certain individual in the group, certain individual in the organization? If it's only certain individual, then say, oh, this one is discrimination, man. I mean, they may have, for example, this group of people, right? They have monthly bonus. Why? It's because that they have a monthly sales target they need to achieve. See, so you understand it. Don't just disagree with things without understanding it first. And of course, generous being generous lah. So for example, if an organization is making $1 billion a year, right? But then they cannot even give you bonus, something is wrong somewhere. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, team interaction. When you go into the team, see, although you are a junior, okay, do they respect your opinions or not? Or they just say, no, you don't know anything, keep quiet. This is the culture of that organization. Then you have to ask yourself, is it this person only, or is it the whole team? That's why it's team interaction, not individual interaction. You have to look at all the teams. And it's not just your team, you have to look at other teams as well. Okay? Then, attitudes from answers. So as a new joiner, even I have a lot of questions when I join a new organization or new team. You will rightly have a lot of questions later. So the attitudes from the answers you receive will be telling you or giving you an idea of what kind of workplace culture it is, whether it's positive or detrimental. So of course the attitude, whether they will give you positive. So for example, even if they don't know, they will say, oh, I really don't know the answer to your question, but let's find out together. Or I'll find out, I'll get back to you later. Rather than, I don't know, it's been done like this. You just follow lah. So which one would you want to hear? A or B? I think A, right? So if you hear B, still investigate some more. Whether this is a person or whether it is a culture there. Okay? So that is why it's very important for you to understand. And all this you can do in the new norm, right? You don't have to wait for you to go back to the office or when you join. This is the new norm. The onboarding is done virtually. The leadership, if it means that you can have a chat straight away or send a message direct to the boss, it depends, right? Incentive, obviously, and team interaction, you'll be able to feel how close the team is through your team meetings, through the friendly banter, or you will know somebody who is over controlling, even though he or she is not the manager. You'll be able to tell this. And then from there, you'll be able to understand what kind of a workplace culture and whether it will suit you or not. Or you then have to adapt and change and learn the workplace culture. Okay? So it is already 4:30 sharp. I am now going to unshare. And I think we are now going into Q&A. Right, Nazlina?
Yes, your insights into professional etiquette and how important it is to people was really fascinating, especially on the part where you explained the dress code policy that we will need to adhere to, the importance of ethics and its significance, the workplace culture, if we are going to accept it or not by understanding it first. I understand the end we will need to adapt as well. Thank you so much for such insightful sharings. Let's move on to the next session that I believe many of you must have been waiting for, which is Q&A session. So if any of you have any questions that you would like to ask to our speakers today, you may type it out in the chat box.
Okay. While waiting for the questions to come, right? I found one interesting statement here. UIAM punya pun susah nak ikut. I think this was when I was talking. I don't know. This was at 4 o'clock.
It was talking about
the
dress.
dress code policy, right? So okay, UIM have a dress code policy. I mean, I don't know, but very interesting to read this. UIM punya pun susah nak ikut. Yeah, I'm very sure your university would have a dress code policy. Are you allowed to wear jeans for the male or even female lah?
No.
No jeans, right, for UIA? I think you guys have to wear khakis, the least, or slacks.
Yeah, slacks.
Slacks. Or not even khakis, like dockers cannot.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, but there must be, right? Just tutup aurat. I think that one is a given. That one, kalau tak tutup aurat, a bit difficult to be in UIA. But I don't know. I really don't know.
So we have the first question here. How do we train ourselves to become more aware and adapting of an organization's culture?
Good question. Yeah. How do we train ourselves? Okay. I'm going to ask that question back to everybody else here also. Okay. Not organization, but can I understand that from you when you join UIA as a fresh student up until today? How were you able to understand and tell me, okay, what is UIA's culture? For example, okay, how do you address your lecturers? Simple as that. Where did you learn? Where did you learn that?
Simply observe our seniors.
Yeah. Okay. Because for example, this one I also confused. Okay. So for example, is associate professor, datuk doctor, something. How do you address that person? Associate professor, datuk, doctor. That's his full title. How would you address it in UIA?
Doctor.
Okay, doctor. What else? Datuk. Okay, what else?
Prof.
What else? Prof. See? So you see, so what I mean is that, okay, I'm not telling you who, right? But that's a real title and if somebody is there, okay? But then how would you know how to address him? How would you train yourself? Through observation. So that is the answer to Iskandar's question. How do we train ourselves to become more aware? You need to be more aware. How you train is that you need to listen and to observe your seniors. So for example, in a team meeting, how do you hear somebody else call your manager? So it's as simple as that. Okay. And then when you say adapting and so to be aware first, let's tackle to be aware first. Then when you be aware and then you are able to read, there is a guide. There's going to be a guide called code of conduct, or there will be an employee handbook. That's your first step. But people will actually forget. So that's why you have to keep coming back. You have to keep coming back to that particular book. Book lah, I say book in inverted commas because it's no more book. It's online already. Okay. So adapting is a bit difficult. Adapting is going to be a little bit more difficult. It's going to be a very long answer. I'm not going to be able to address it here, but there are many ways. And one of them for me is truly it's your mindset change. You need to be able to, it's learning agility. You must be able to forget what you have learned and pick up new things. You have to have that open mind. Because if you say, oh, but in university, this is how we do it. You must be able to say, okay, this is how we did it in university, but that is the past. I'm now having to be able to open and concentrate on the new way of adapting. That's it. That's a simple one. That's way sorry, but I think there's a lot more. Okay. So I think that's the second question.
And the second question is it possible for few people in organization to not like each other, but still achieve effectiveness in doing work?
Honestly, the simple answer is yes. Why do you go to work? Oh, I'm not asking Nazlina, sorry, I'm asking everybody. Why do you go to work?
Because we want to earn money.
Yeah, see? Truthful answer, kan? Truthful answer, correct? Okay. Anybody else? Why do you go work? Why do you think you're going to UIA, going to graduate and go to work later? Why?
To do what we are passionate about.
Passionate about, yes. But even if you work in a company that you're passionate about, you're bound to meet individuals who may not be 100% aligned with you, right? That's the truth. Are you going to work because you want to make more friends? Purely to make friends? Can I just ask you that?
Not really.
If you really want to make more friends, you can join other organizations out of work, right? For example, I like to do hiking. Example. So do I go and force my colleagues at work to go hiking with me, or I make friends or already have hiking friends? Okay. So back to that question. They may not like each other, but I've seen so many who may not like. When you say like and hate is a different word. So, okay, so you like, you don't like. Okay. But why you don't like a person? It could be the way he or she talks. It could be he or she, the way they respond to you. So what do you need to do? And imagine it's your managers like that. You don't like your manager. But for what reason? That's where you have then to come back to yourself and ask that reason. Why? Why? Then you say, oh, we are human beings. I'm not saying I'm not perfect as well. All of us are not perfect. So then just look at ourselves first. What have we done to actually have that impression towards that person? Not that person, because we are having the impression we don't like. So ask yourself that. And we can be professional at work. Okay? And we don't have to spend a single minute out of work. But the time that we are at work in the office, you will hear a lot of, okay, we are in the office, let's finish this as a team. Okay? And do it. And I've seen so many examples of it where the team actually exceeds and achieve excellence without everybody, trying to be best friends with each other. So the answer is yes, can.
All right, thank you for the answer. Moving on to the third question. If we have to work with the partner that don't have a good ethic, what is the best way for us to approach and advise them?
Okay, so this one where again it says what is the best way for us to approach and advise them. Okay, you have to understand that there are steps that you need to take. You definitely need to take. Okay, so some incidents. Okay, so for example, in your student time now, okay, I don't know, but during my days, there are assignments where I can choose my partner. There are assignments I cannot choose my partner. The lecturer assign. Okay. So when the lecturer assigns, right, then it's like a game of mari kita tengok siapa yang kena. So if you kena, there's somebody who you don't like, what to do? Do you straight away go to lecturer? Lecturer, I cannot work with this person. This person cannot, hopeless. Do you do that? Now itself? I don't think so. Right? So you already know this person's attitude, but sometimes it's because of hearsay, it's because of feedback you receive from others, which could be true. Then my advice would be you need to go through with it first. But then there's the second instance where you already have worked with this person before and he or she is really hopeless. No ethics. No ethics means you have a deadline, don't want to follow. You have a schedule, don't want to follow. But you give chance. First chance, second chance, right? Then you explain to him or her. Just say, Ali, I'm just giving an example. I have a partner named Ali. I hope no one's named Ali here. If there is, I'm sorry. It's just a sample. So Ali, I'm going to talk to him professionally. I've had it before in my MBA. This person was not doing work, and I told him properly. I told him, Andrew, oh, I use the real word. Okay. So, okay, I said, Ali, we really need to work together with this. Okay. And it's just me and you. If partnering means me and you only. I'm not able to carry your load alone because I also have other this. And I understand you also have other. However, can we meet in the middle and agree to this now? You give your expectation up front, you hear his expectation back. Okay. And if he say, no, cannot, I don't want to do this, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And he's saying it in a nice way. And you like, oh, you feel guilty, but you still cannot carry the load. Then what do you do next? So that's why in the workplace, it's the same thing. You meet the person, you know that the person is not cooperating or is not performing, you deal with it first. Second layer, you will need to go to your manager. Okay? You need to go to your manager. And if your manager is backing this person and feels that, oh, no, he's giving you all the input and whatever, and you still feel no, then that is where you will go to the senior manager. It is a step-by-step process. Do not go to a different team and talk about it. If you want to, I'm not going to stop you. We are human beings. But I have seen so many cases where the individual go and talk about bad things to other individuals out of the team, and bad things happen. Really. So the way you should handle is really have a slow talk with this person first. Okay. And if this person really, sometimes the person like me, I told you before, I've received feedback that I do not realize that I'm not good at certain things. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing this the wrong things. I didn't realize. I thought it was good. Then it gives me a chance to change. That's why I appreciate. So that person could be that, this partner could be like that. So then it's a win-win situation. Best case scenario, then you perform at work. The not so good scenario is this person doesn't agree with you. But I'm going to tell you now, you have to stand your ground. Please stand your ground at your workplace. Because if it happens once, it will happen again. That's my experience.
That was an insightful answer. Moving on to the fourth question, how to differentiate between an offensive suggestions and an idea that we really want to propose.
Okay, so this goes back to my first answer. People will find it offensive if it is half-cooked. It means that they are seeing you trying to suggest things only from your view without any justification. So if you come into a meeting and you say, okay, I believe that this idea could be done better by this evidence. Instead of just say this idea is no good, it will not work. When you say offensive means you condemn the idea, you put negative connotation. One way that I would do is that you go into it positive and you switch it. Okay, what I mean by that is this. Okay. You'll go in and you say that, okay, this idea of yours, I feel that it is good. However, why don't we consider doing A, B, C, and D as well, and then it'll be a better idea. So you see where I'm coming from? You don't go in and just slam the idea and just say, no, it won't work. No is a very negative word, very negative. In your professional world, in your professional lives later, try to avoid the word no. Your manager, I'm very sure your managers and seniors also will say this. Okay. No is the last word that you wanna say, and it's a very bad word. If your boss says something, can you please do this? Please don't say no. Although you cannot do it, although you don't have the time or resource, don't say no. That's my advice to you. You'll have to find a way first. Because Imagine if you answer no, you will be known as the person who will always be known as a no person. Very difficult to change, but can, but very difficult. So when you start off your professional career later, right, no should not be in your vocab. Okay.
Okay, the fifth question, how can we demonstrate professionalism and regain trust when we made mistake in our past?
Okay, we can, but it's going to be difficult. I've experienced it before, really. Okay, I've made boo-boos before. I've made errors before. I've made mistakes before. Okay, but when they have hired you and they have promoted you, okay, and they've put you into a position, they have put you there because they have a level of trust. One. So when they trust you to do the things and you have been doing it, fine. And one fine day, you did something wrong. Okay? You did something wrong, whatever it may be. You can win and regain the trust back, okay, by then not doing any more errors of that nature. You have to understand there's a lot of errors. So, for example, okay, in my email to my boss, okay, I have said and I have mentioned, and it was a mistake, okay, giving a wrong advice. I gave a wrong advice. So it led to a wrong action being taken and everybody got feedback. Okay. So then my boss will say, "Ish, you gave me wrong advice. You gave me wrong info. How now?" Right? So then I was very down, obviously. How we did that is that the next time that I give info, I back it up with data, for example. So for example, yes, this is the action we should take and why we should take it. Then the boss will say, okay. Then it makes sense. Okay. What the manager or the boss wants to do is next. Then they will say that, then you have to do that extra. To regain trust back is difficult, but it can be done. And I've done it also. Can be done. And I'm still doing mistakes, but I have to regain again. Okay. So that's why it's very important you do things right the first time. But it doesn't happen that way. You are human beings. Yes, you can still do it, but extra effort, definitely.
Our last question, if we already slow talk with the said person nicely, but they responded unprofessionally, like not able to accept our opinions, advice, and they also act immaturely, what should we do in such situation?
This is where I say that that is the stages that you need to go to. So stage one, you have a slow talk with that person. And when you have the slow talk with the person, you need to record it. Remember the communication verbal just now? Must be spoken and written. If it comes to a point where you need to slow talk, you need to put it into writing already. Slow talk, yes. Oh, okay. Ali, you cakap. Then say, okay. Ali agrees, we follow up with the email. But if Ali don't agree and act immaturely, then what's the next level? You then have to document it on your own, and then you have to report it to your line manager, your next level manager, whether it's a supervisor or a manager. You have to. And that's why I'm repeating myself again. And if this manager or supervisor, you see that, oh no, he is backing this other person, and both of them are acting immaturely, you need to highlight it to the senior manager. And for me being in HR, there are so many cases, they have already highlighted and they come to HR. HR is the last resort that you should come to in matters like this. You want advice, you can go. But if you want a report, pun can, no problem. So that's the stages. You slow talk. Number 2, direct manager. Number 3, senior manager. Number 4, go to HR. So that's a step by step. Don't go direct to HR because HR will ask you, have you spoken to the person? No. Please go and speak to the person. Have you escaped to the manager? No. Go. So there's no point. So you follow step by step. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that's
well,
one. Practice slow. Okay.
Then. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our evening today. On behalf of our organizing societies, thank you, Mr. AMIRUL, for making time in your busy schedules to be our speaker today, especially on this public holiday. Thank you for your insights into this most important topic that I know is significant for all of us here, especially students. Thank you as well to all participants for willingly spending your leisure time to join this meaningful session. I wish all of you to have a pleasant day ahead, and I'm glad to be your MC today. That's all from our session today. We apologize if there are any shortcomings from our side. Also, do not forget to fill up the attendance link given in the chat box. Before we end our session, we would like to have a photography session together. Please open up your camera and just smile.